Juniper walked ahead of me as usual, leading Tilly, but she did not notice until she got to the farther bank that I had stuck in the middle. I had looked down and had become rooted to the spot, paralyzed with fear. Unable to remain upright, I had dropped to my knees, as I had when I was dizzy after flying, my hands clinging desperately to the planks on each side of the bridge. Juniper flung Tilly's reins over a branch, came back, lifted me bodily. She managed to do this in quite a gentle way, and carried me to the farther bank, where she set me down. We walked on toward the church, neither of us referring to what had happened. When I had left her, however, and was inside the church at my prayers, my skin grew prickly with horror at the thought that I would have to cross that bridge again in order to get home. I could not imagine how I could do it. Juniper was waiting, as usual, outside the church, and the two of us, with Tilly, set off immediately toward the bridge. As if both of us were aware of the ordeal ahead, neither of us spoke at all. Usually I chattered, with Juniper occasionally throwing in an interesting sentence or two. When we got to the bridge, Juniper behaved as if the morning's scene had not occurred. She walked ahead with Tilly, and it was only when she reached the far side that she looked around to see if I was following her. I wasn't. In fact, I had not even set foot on those trembling planks. If I thought that she would come back and carry me this time, I was mistaken. She sat down on a log on the other side of the stream, with the air of someone who was prepared to wait for a long time. Quite sure that there was no way I would ever cross that bridge unless Juniper carried me, I too sat down on a rock and prepared for a long wait. Time began to pass very slowly indeed as I thought of the various possibilities. One possibility was that I might simply die of cold. It was not a very cold day, but it was quite bad enough, and I longed to be back home by the fire. Also, I was getting hungry. Juniper had given me my usual slice of bread outside the church. I remembered with pleasure that I had not eaten all of it, and spent a happy few minutes finishing the rest. But I knew that a chicken stew awaited me at the top of the cliff. There seemed no possible way of getting there, and if Juniper was not prepared to carry me, or even prepared to bring me a bit of stew from her own dinner, then I could not imagine what was to become of me. No one could have lived with Juniper as long as I had, without getting into the habit of pondering the why of things. As the minutes passed and nothing happened, I began to ask myself why it was that today I was so frightened. I had crossed that bridge many, many times, always with a slight quiver of fear, but never paralyzed with the horror of it as I was today. Suddenly the truth came to me. It was the dizziness of the flying that was still troubling me. But that made no sense either. The dizziness had gone 2 days ago, and I could walk as well as ever. Yes, but the helpless feeling I had had when I was dizzy had brought up some much more frightened feeling in me, the feeling I had always pushed down when I crossed this bridge. It was a terror of falling, of being lost and swept away, of losing myself, of not being wise child anymore. As if a door had opened, I suddenly thought of something else. Only the other night, on my flying trip, as I had walked up the great stone avenue, I had felt part of everything, part of animal and bird, tree and stone. If I was part of everything, then I was also the part of the bridge and stream, of the sharp rocks beneath the water and the tumbling, rushing waters. Even if I fell into the waters, and even if I was swallowed up by them, I would still be a part of it all. In such a world, such a universe, nothing terrible could happen to me. Suppose, I asked myself, just suppose that I walked across that bridge as if I was part of it and part of the water, that I decided that whatever happened as I did so, it would be all right. What then? Suddenly, it was as if a weight had dropped off me. I stood up, walked to the bridge, and crossed it with only the slightest hesitation as I got to the middle. Juniper stood up as I reached the far bank, gave me one loving, comprehending smile, picked up Tilly's reins, and started for home. One part of me felt very relieved and rather proud. Another part missed the thrill of being terrified. It had been exciting in a way. How muddling everything always was.